Wauneta, Nebraska, there's a canyon. They call it Stone Canyon. This is the beginning of it. Massive columns of rocks into the canyon, bigger than houses, bigger than barns. Lots of rock, and it shows a lot of water was here at one time or another. There's a lot of seashells all the way around here. Of course, the Rock Creek ran into the Indian Creek, which runs into the Republican. But this was a favorite of the Sioux. They loved to encamp here, and at one time it was estimated there was a encampment of over 3,000 that were along here in the Native Americans. You can find arrowheads and flint all around this area. And in the late 1800s, there was 13 families that lived up and down this 4-mile canyon of rock. And they did it so that they could have a piece of their ground come down to water, because drilling wells back then was almost impossible. And so they needed to get their livestock to water. But this is Rock Canyon. You're looking at an overhang here. There's just hundreds of them. And seashells are just embedded everywhere along in here. It's just a fascinating area. You got to watch out for rattlesnakes. The BB gun says at least you'll give them a little run for their money. But rattlesnakes, we put every one of them down. The old farmer gets tired of losing livestock to rattlesnakes. But this whole canyon's got a lot of rocks. It's a very enjoyable place to be. On top, you'll see just all sorts of boulders and rocks of about every kind and every size. And you see rust on some of the rocks as the mold is eating away at the rocks. Probably in another 10,000 years, all these rocks will be gone. But for right now, it is just a fun place for anybody to come and play. I like to come down here in the spring and in the winter. It's a beautiful place to walk and reasonably safe, to say the least. In the fall, I don't like to come down here near as much because the snakes start coming into the rocks and into their dens. And the record kill in this canyon on a given year was over 200 rattlesnakes in one day. And so this can become a very dangerous place in the fall. Another reason I don't like to come here in the fall is because of this. Marijuana. There's, probably a good 2, 3, 4 acres of marijuana growing in this canyon. And the people that want to collect it, they're here and they don't have a sense of humor. And then the bad guys, they got to figure that the cops are watching them. So it's just best to leave this area alone in the fall, because I'll let the cops and the bad guys fight each other, and I don't want to get in the middle of it, because I don't think my Red Ryder would hold up very long in a firefight. You're looking at a tree here. It's been knocked down. A tornado came through here and knocked this old tree down. But you got to be more than a tornado, because I'm here to tell you it's still alive. Even laying at a 90-degree angle, it survived. Now that's a tough tree in Rock Canyon. The dam runs along here and it washed out, but in the 1920s when it was built, and they built it with teams of horses and they just packed dirt in. It's just an earthen dam, a very small one to say the least, but it would have almost 150 yards long and 100 yards wide, about 6 foot deep out in the middle part. And people would come here every Sunday, and they talked about catching bullheads and catfish, maybe once in a while a bass. And they said kids would go swimming. They said a Sunday it was nothing to see 100 people, sometimes 200 people would be camped all the way around this thing with their horse and buggies and some of their Model Ts, and they'd just spend the evening here camping and fishing. And before the lakes came in or anything else, there was Stone Canyon Dam. Here's one of the caves that along this side canyon to the Stone Canyon. And there are a lot of deep ones, some deeper than this. I kind of get nervous going into darn things. There's so much powdered dirt in here. And rattlesnakes, especially little ones, they'll hide in the dirt. and just their eyes showing, and you can get in trouble real quick. And so I usually don't go into caves very much, just to show you, you know, this is about 10 feet back and 30 feet wide. You could be sheltered in here, you know, in storms or what have you, and I'm sure the Native Americans did just that. Water runs down through here and down in and has cut a deep old round hole, and then as it comes on down, it flows down and comes out this side and then on down the canyon. There's a poor little plant growing on a rock. Now you gotta want life awful bad just to try to live on top of a rock and still survive. Should give all of us a little bit of extra courage to say, if a plant can live on a rock, maybe where we live aren't so bad after all.